Okay, I think everything is working as it should be. Alright, if y'all can't see or anything, let me know. Should be good here. Okay, so sorry about not being around yesterday. Had other things that needed to be done. And I did warn you guys ahead of time. I did forget to change the schedule though, but whatever. I did spend yesterday catching up, well, trying to catch up on my zoo with the husband. I got my bug area done. Now I just have to try to come to an understanding with the new video editing software I have. Well, new to me, and I had to switch to something else because what I was using we didn't think was going to be compatible with the version of Windows I now have, so it was just less fuss. So, oh, I forgot to load up, that's what I forgot to do. See, new system. Fuck. So yeah, new system, and I forgot to add some things and stuff in here. Let's bookmark that. I also switched browsers that I'm using, so still getting everything sorted. This is the first art stream on the new system. Okay, that's working. Okay, when we last left off, I was extremely exhausted and didn't get very far. So this is as far as we got, the first episode. I'm still tired, not as mind-numbingly tired, but I'm still tired. And we're gonna keep going. Look, I didn't even finish putting in the fuzz here. It's still not fully tacked down. We got the adapter cable for the second monitor, so we've got that up and running now. Now we can try to get into some sense of normalcy once I figure out the new editing software. And everything I've been reading, like when I've been trying to look up answers to my questions, they're like, oh yeah, or they're like, the faster, easier way to edit video, and I'm like, is it though? Because it's a lot. Like, there's all kinds of shiny new things in there, and things are in different places that they weren't, and it feels like it's more involved than the other one I was using, and I'm like, I don't know about this. I guess we'll see. It seems a little more complicated. Right, so I've changed the layout around a little bit. In the bottom, oh no, we're okay. For a second I thought it was upside down. I don't know why I thought that looked like it was upside down, but I did. In the bottom right hand corner, we have the tutorial that we're following from Bob. In the chat is the link, in the chat at the moment, is the link to the tutorial itself over on his YouTube page. We won't be playing it straight through to follow because I can't needle felt that fast. Just can't. And not for the size that we're working at. So we're going to be taking it slow. This might take maybe 10, 13 sessions. We've been averaging around 12. But last session I only got like an hour. Might take a couple extra sessions depending on what time we get started. Because I do sort of have hard stop times now when I didn't before. I don't really have so much of a hard stop time today because we're having leftovers and it's going to be a free-for-all in the fridge. So it's going to be kind of a figure out what the fuck you want and reheat it when you feel like eating. Kind of day, so. But I also have a terrible headache forming, so I don't know how long we're going today. We'll see. I took some allergy medicine. My allergies have been kicking my ass real bad. Like itchy, watery eyes, runny nose, stuffy nose at the same time. I don't know how that's possible. Sneezing like crazy. Between the hay fields and the trees losing their minds because the weather's changing. It's been a long couple of days, to be perfectly honest. And I'm just peeling that up every so often because if I don't, we end up needle felting to the mat. And then that's not a good time trying to get that off of there. We speak from experience. Oh, yes, yes, we do. My mat has been around the block a little bit here. It's seen some things. The mat's over a year old, so I can't really complain that much. And it really wasn't made to withstand quite the extent of things that I've been putting it through. At least I don't think it was. But it's been doing okay. I know I'll have to replace it eventually. And I might come summer. We'll see. I hate to replace it when it's still usable. But it is also forming a dome in the center of it. And I might have the means to replace it in a few weeks, maybe a month or two. So we'll just kind of tough it out till then. And we'll see how things go. Sorry, I switched what size that piece was for right in there because I was like, I could really use a smaller guy coming into here. Alright, so right now we're just kind of working on getting our sky in there. And in the upper left-hand corner is a screenshot of our test sketch that we did with colored pencils, where we were trying to work out what colors we were going to use to kind of coincide with the paint colors that Bob was using. I don't think we had to change too much in here. I think we had to kind of fudge the greens a little bit. So I don't have that many greens. I've got a couple, but I don't have too many greens that are vastly different. Now, if I was really, really desperate, we could dive into the little mini bags of Roving that I have. And we might, for some small parts. It's just the bags are like the size of a floss bag. And you don't get very much of the colors, so I can't use just those to do this because I won't have enough for the size of the piece that we are working on here. Now this one I'm using is acrylic yarn, and it didn't come like this. It came like as yarn usually does, in its little roll or ball or whatever you want to call it, skein. And I had to prep it to get it to be fluffy and not in its little strands. And there is a video on yarn prep for how I do it on the YouTube channel, on the needle felting playlist. And you're basically taking a pet grooming brush, you know, those scary ones with all like the metal angled teeth in them that kind of hurt when you touch them, to get like the doggy undercoat out. Use that to brush out the yarn, and then you get this. And this particular shade is Vintage Heather, and it's from the brand Paint Box, which I think is I don't know if it's exclusive, it might be, to Lovecrafts or Lovecraft.com. Not sponsored in any way, but hey, if you want to be, we can talk. And this is their Simply Chunky. They've got a couple different versions in the Paint Box yarn. There is Simply Super Chunk, or is it Super Chunky? Can't remember if it's Simply Chunky or Simply Super Chunky, or they have a Simply Chunky, a Super Chunky, an Aaron DK, I think, and they've got some cotton blends too. I've not tried anything except for the Simply Chunky, because that had the most shades available. And I was like, well, you know, it's a little bit thicker. We could probably get a little bit more mileage out of it. So you can tell that my mat is like raised up because this is not flat. This is not laying flat. You can kind of tell it's not. Alright. Now if I need to zoom in a little bit more, let me know. I had to change my camera zoom a little bit when we switched out the systems for some reason. It looked like it had zoomed itself out a bit. I guess because we had to re-download OBS, so my settings weren't quite the same on this system as they were on the other one, which, you know, that would make sense. I'm not putting pressure with that finger, I'm just kind of holding the fluff down gently with just the weight of my finger itself, just so it doesn't grab all of it at once. Just shove it in that spot. Because these needles are special needle felting needles. There's little notches cut into the sides of them to help grab the fluff fibers. And then as you're stabbing through, it's basically jamming it in and weaving it into the base felt here and the rest of the fiber that we've put on here. And see, it's kind of coming out the back here. That's what the back side looks like right now. And that's why I have to pull it off the mat every so often, because if I don't, then it starts to become attached to the mat, and then it can distort a bit in the shape if it gets too attached when I go to pull it off. I've not found a good way to pull it off of this particular mat. leaving it to the very end. I would not suggest that if you're using the wool mat. And that's just something I do, or I will brush the fiber down on the back every so often just to make sure we're not getting too lumpy or anything back there. This stuff is so soft. It's like, feels softer than cotton balls. Alright. So it can take a little bit of time to lay in your base colors. It happens. I know this isn't quite the exciting stage that we're at the moment, where there's a lot happening. But, you know, it takes time to get the layers worked in here. And we'll go from there. Didn't realize my microphone was in the shot. That's okay. There's all kinds of crap all over the microphone. I've got paint splatters and dust and you name it. Just all kinds of stuff all over it. I have to work on a flamingo shaped cutout that I picked up. We were thinking about putting it on the front door, but it's a little heavy and the glass on our front door is really thin and I'm afraid it's gonna break the glass, so I might just hang it in our room instead. See, that's what it should look like. This is all domed up in here. It's still usable though. I kind of want to put my wax melter on, but I'm also having such a time of it with my allergies, it's probably not a good idea. Yeah, if my voice sounds like I've been crying or I am terribly ill, I'm neither. It's just from my allergies. So I do apologize for that, but there's not much I can do. I did take a small amount of my Benadryl equivalent before we got started when I woke up. It's been too warm in here to not have the window open, but not quite warm enough to put the air conditioner on. So it's been war with the allergies and the tree pollen and everything. We think the trees are going extra hard because we actually had a winter. Like, it snowed, we had a hard freeze this winter, all of the things. What are you doing, OBS? OBS Twitch, are we behaving? It's not giving me a stream quality here. We got the second monitor up, so yay. Sorry, I just noticed that it wasn't showing me the quality of the stream. Because I can see my dashboard today. And I was like, what you doing? Our internet's been weird the past, like, week. Which kind of pisses me off, because we're paying for the faster speeds and things. And we don't know if it's the router, or if it's the internet, or if it's the modem. I mean, I guess technically it could be the router. I don't know how old that router is. And we definitely put it through its paces. But it could also be Twitch too. That's one mystery I just don't know the answer to. Now I am overlapping just a little bit when I add a new bundle of color here. Just so it doesn't look too patchworky. So it kind of blends all of the pieces together a bit. I mean, we're not going to see too much of this color as we move forward. For some reason, he put this in and then covered up 2/3 of it. My sketch, I left a little bit more of it visible than he necessarily did, because it's such a lovely color. It kind of seemed a shame to not have a little bit more visible. It kind of just became like a purpley, cloudy mist in his version. And we are still trying to follow along with his version. It's just, you know, you can do a lot more things with paint. Or a lot more things are possible with paint than necessarily this. Where you can start out with one color on your brush, and depending what's on the canvas, you can end up with an entirely different shade than you started with. And that doesn't quite work that way with this. You kind of have to see what color it's turning out to be and what he did, and then try to pick a color that kind of feels similar. So, I hope everybody had a good weekend. And, hopefully, if the Easter Bunny did come to your house, he brought things that you actually like. Easter Bunny didn't technically come to our house this year, but that's okay. That is more than okay. We've got enough junk in this house. We don't need the Easter Bunny's help. Certainly do not. At all. The husband went a little crazy when they were clearancing the Easter candy. Not the Easter candy, the Christmas candy, excuse me. He went crazy when they clearanced the Christmas candy. And I don't know why they bother clearancing. I mean, I guess they would have to for shelf life. But, I like these cheap ass candy canes that are cherry flavored. And they had a bunch left this year on clearance. And he must have bought like 20 boxes of candy canes. I kid you not, I have a gallon Ziploc bag in the fridge filled to busting with cherry flavored candy canes. And then another like third of another bag. And I'm just like, okay. So I have candy canes until like next year. Because I don't eat them that fast. But sometimes I need something. And I usually break them into pieces because I don't like holding them because they get sticky. I don't like my hands sticky. Can't stand feeling sticky. I can get paint on me, you know, but I start getting glue on me and then, like, which is weird because I used to love doing the Elmer's glue. And then letting it dry on my hand and then peel it off. And my mom would always yell at me, "Wasting glue." I'm like, but I'm bored. That's keeping me out of trouble. "You're wasting glue, stop it." You know, that sort of stuff. But that would get me into trouble though, because I enjoyed the sensation of peeling the glue off my hand so much whenever I got sunburn. I would like peel it. I wouldn't leave it alone. I was one of those people. I was like, but it's flaking off, I have to peel it. But I forgot where I was going with this. Oh yeah, so I don't like the sticky hands. Like glue sticky that I did, you know, I can kind of tolerate it to a degree. But even like if I'm sealing something in Mod Podge, I'm like, oh my god, get it off me. And I had to put a flower arrangement together last week. I was gonna try to stream it. That's why we didn't do a stream, I think, on Wednesday. I don't think we did a stream on Wednesday. I don't remember. I am so tired. Well, the past week has been quite the blur. Between just being busy and life being stupid. It's just been so dumb. Yeah, I had to put a flower arrangement together and it was just too big. It wasn't gonna fit in my workspace and have you guys be able to see what I was doing properly. And it took me a couple of hours to do to put that together. So I hadn't planned on painting the pot that we got, the terracotta pot, but then after we got home with it, I'm looking at it and I'm like, does she want this painted? So I had to go and talk to my mom and be like, alright, so what do you want me to do with this? Am I painting it? Are we leaving it plain? So then I spent like 2 hours painting the pot because I had to prime it. I didn't have to prime it, but I did prime it with gesso. And then once that dried, then I had to come back in, and then I sponged the colors of the flowers that she got onto the pot. So that took a little bit of time. Oh, I forgot to post the picture on Mongo. I have a photo of like the 5-foot tall flamingo statue we have now. I forgot to post it. My husband gave it to me. Still sorting through my music. That's gonna be a nightmare. I've got so much stuff just shoved in folders. I had like 3 different various artist folders in my music file that came over from the old computer, and I'm just like, what is happening here? Some of the stuff I didn't even remember having, and I'm like, where did you come from? I was like, are you actually mine? Were you the husband's? I don't remember having you. So I'm in the process of going through that. I haven't even added it to Windows Media Player yet. iTunes gets on my nerves sometimes. It's like every time I open it, oh, download update. I'm like, what are you updating? Stop. Calm your ass down. I don't know. It would just piss me off. And I don't have my iPod anymore. Well, I do have the one, but I don't use it anymore. And it's probably... I don't even know if it still works. It's probably vastly out of date. Vastly. There goes a doggo by in a car. Barking out the window. Not the usual doggo we hear. Oh, it's so funny. Lately, we've been going for our walks early enough that other people are still out and about doing their walks. And we've seen this one guy a couple different times in the past week, walking a pair of huskies. And they've been just dragging him. And they're like, let's go, and he's like having trouble keeping up with them, and they want to run, and he's trying to pull them back into a walk. And the last day that we saw him last week, he had a little Razor scooter, and he was riding that and letting them pull him while he was riding it, and we're like, there you go, that's one way to tire out the doggos. He's like, yeah, now I can keep up. So that was fun. We haven't seen our bulldog friend lately, though. There's a house a couple of blocks back from ours that has 2 bulldogs, and the guy was out walking one of them the one day and told us the one dog's name. And so, we know what house they live at. So whenever we go by and they're out in the yard, we're talking to the dog. But we haven't seen her outside recently. Just haven't caught them. We don't usually take our walk when the sun's still up, because usually the traffic's still a little much. But it's been getting dark later now. Yay. So we've been able to go a little bit earlier, and it's funny because we'll be walking one of our normal routes. Like, we have about 4 different paths that we take, that we change it up in between. And we'll be walking along and we're like, oh my god, when did that change? What happened here? How long has it been like this? Because, you know, when we're walking in the dark, we don't notice as much stuff. Like, we were walking past this one house, and we were coming up on this one house that always does a bunch of lights for Christmas and stuff, and I said to the husband, I was like, I smell fresh mulch or something. He goes, yeah. It's like, it's weird because I don't see where anybody put any mulch down. And then we got up to the house that always does all these Christmas lights, and he goes, or they cut a tree down, and I was like, huh? Like, I didn't even, like, really register that there had been a tree there before until it wasn't there. And we saw all of the ground up chunks of wood around it. And we're like, what happened here? And then, you know, we saw huge divots in the ground from where I guess the branches fell and hit the ground so hard that they left like a crater. And we're like, oh damn, when did that happen? We're like, it was just crazy. Like, did this just happen last night? Are we really not that observant when we're walking at night? Because, I mean, we only have the flashlight and we're not, like, shining it in people's yards and stuff. Unless I hear rustling in a bush and I'm like, what the fuck was that? Just making sure there's no, like, coyote or anything trying to size us up for a meal. Because there have been coyote spottings lately. I'm pretty close to town. One reason I'm glad my mom didn't insist on wanting chickens. Because we are allowed to have 2 where we are. But we probably would have had to put the security camera out on the chickens and really sink down the chicken wire and really secure the doors on the chicken coop. Because there are some foxes in the area. We've never seen them. Well, maybe the husband saw one of them once. I've never laid eyes on them. And I know we had a possum at one point. We haven't seen the possum at all lately, so they either died or moved on. We had an armadillo that would traverse by every so often, but haven't seen him in forever, so he either got hit by a car or moved on. We had a couple of raccoons that would stop by once in a while. Haven't seen them lately either, so I imagine they found someplace else better to hang out. And I haven't seen any coyotes. We had a big ass dog that kept showing up on our porch for a couple days in a row, and we would go out and try to catch him so that we could try to find the owner, and he just kind of looked at us and walked away. He wouldn't get close enough for us. It turned out somebody's husky kept getting out. Because we didn't know what it was at first. And all we knew was that it was dog-like and tall. And at first we thought it might have been a coyote, but then we're like, no, it's a little big. A little too big for being a coyote. But then we figured out that it was somebody's just a very old husky. There's a lot of huskies in this area for how hot it gets down here. I'm really surprised. Like, it is not unusual to be triple digit in the summer. Like low triple digit, but still. Just like those poor dogs must be melting. It's crazy. So I'm really surprised. And then we have, there's someone that walks, and the someone changes sometimes daily. Somebody walks this one big, kind of looks like either a Great Pyrenees or a really overweight, like yellow-white lab, or maybe a combination of lab and Pyrenees. They have this halter on or collar that will glow in the dark sometimes. And we called it Floof because it was so big. And they were just like the slowest plodding along dog that we had ever seen. So well behaved. I'm sure it's an older dog. With how slow it walks. Like sometimes the humans are walking slower with it. We've seen a couple different people walking this dog. And I might have to fluff more of this. I don't know. Maybe it will be okay. And then we noticed, oh, there's two floofs that look almost identical, except it looked like maybe one had the collar and one had the harness. And I was like, oh, maybe it's two different doggos. And then another time we saw it, there was a third, like, fluffy black dog with them, and we're like, oh, the mystery deepens. Floof has friends. And now we've seen a fourth dog walking with the original Floof, and someone else has joined the evening walks, and I don't really know where they live. I have a vague idea, because they seem to vary what direction they walk in sometimes, because we don't always see Floof. And Floof is usually very much inside by the time it gets dark, at least at this point, with the time it's getting dark now. So, I don't know, but Floof has friends or family. And now it seems to be a two-person job, but we don't always see them, so I don't know if they're not always walking, or if it's just a case of we missed the Floof. Sorry, my body hurts today. Just everything hurts today. We don't quite have a stabilized temperature going on yet. Well, that's what I was gonna check. I was gonna check the weather. My computer is telling me it's 68, but I don't know if it's set to the right town. It and I were having a difference of opinion about what town it was supposed to be displaying or checking. To be perfectly honest. Here, while we're working on that, let me... Yeah, see, one of our news stations that I check. Why are we having protests there? Oh, for fuck's sake. Saying we're at 70. I was trying to see when it was supposed to rain again, because they were originally saying rain today, and then they took it away, and I'm like, well, I had to go somewhere. So 70 today. They're predicting 78 by Friday. Oh, they took... it looks like Saturday's our biggest chance of rain. If it happens. Oh, okay, I guess that rain went north then. That's weird. We kind of need the rain, so I kind of want it. Kind of situation. We have to get some yard work done. We need to try to get the lawnmower up and running again. The neighbor wanted her backyard to grow out a little bit to give the bees a chance at the ground cover flowers that seem to pop up everywhere. I don't know what they are. We've got these white things that just seem to spread and sprout up everywhere throughout spring. And then we've got these tiny little pink guys, and I love the tiny little pink guys, but I don't know what they're called at all. They might be, I think we found out they might be something called, oh, what the fuck was it? Virginia Beauties or something, if it was correct. Don't know for certain. I still haven't gotten my dowel rods. And I'm so mad because we were in Lowe's. Completely forgot. Because we were trying to figure out something for the husband that I had told him. I said, well, you can get it now, but you're gonna have to consider it like your anniversary gift, because that's like the next big thing that we have coming up. I can't tell him to consider it his Father's Day present because we don't have kids. It was a little pricey. So I was like, well, you'll have to consider it this. Sorry, my eyes gone funky. Alright, there we go. Allergies, man. I didn't take a full dose of allergy medicine. I barely took like the tiniest fractional amount because this one I realized didn't say non-drowsy after we had already gotten it, and I was like, oh. And then I'm reading the back and it says may cause marked drowsiness, and I'm like, that's I was like, well, that's gonna be a thing. More than likely. Very much so. Hopefully I don't lose my edge too much here, because I can't see it too well. With the angle that I'm on. That's not too bad. Okay, so we are making a little bit of progress. I am a little bit thin up here, or maybe there was some lighter gray or something that got mixed in over there. That's going to be fine, though, because there's going to be a tree sitting up here, so we're just going to leave that be. So I'm just kind of like rolling it as a snake lightly. I don't want it to be too tight. But I do also want it a little bit thicker, so we can get some coverage happening in here. just so it doesn't get too thin. I mean, the gray underneath is kind of blending in with our heather sky here. So, I mean, that is working to our advantage a bit. Alright. So, I don't know, we're not quite halfway across here. Not real sure. If we'll be done this part of the sky today. Again, sorry we didn't do an art live stream yesterday, but I was pretty tired. My sleep schedule was all kafutzed because I had to get up early and deal with cooking, and then Allergy City. It was bad yesterday too. Like, I was just felt like shit. On top of having to cook and stuff. Like, I put the turkey in the oven, set a timer, and I set for like my timer like an hour before, or an alarm before I had to get up. I'm like, it should be okay, just kind of like make sure it's like not burning to the husband. And I'm like, I'm laying back down, and I did manage to fall back asleep, which kind of surprised me. I didn't think I was gonna be able to. I'm usually one of those people, no matter how little sleep I've had, once I'm up and I've done X number of things, or I've had to, you know, wake my brain up enough to function to a certain level, that falling back asleep just isn't gonna happen. But I was just that exhausted. I was like, yeah, no. It still didn't feel like enough. Like, I was almost in bed at 11 last night, which is really unheard of for me. I didn't end up going to bed at 11. I should have. I really should have. Because I was sitting here trying to edit video and getting frustrated because something just didn't look right. And the husband had gone to bed before I had the chance to ask him about it. And he's like, yeah, so you did this, and it asked you to do that, and you said you did this, so that might have been why you were seeing it look like that. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, and he's kind of looking at me, and I knew he was gonna say, you're probably gonna need to start over. And I hadn't gotten that far into the editing process, because I'm still trying to figure out this new editing software. And I was like, I could start over. He goes, yeah, start over, start a new project, drop it in again, except don't do what you did before, and see what happens. And I'm like, okay. Because the length of my video, or my recording, was like an hour and some odd minutes. And I'm like, alright. And I dropped it into the recording, or the editing software, and I couldn't find the video length, time-wise, anywhere that matched what the video file was saying. And I'm like, don't, I'm like, I don't understand. Because video files say like 1 hour and 18 minutes, and everything I'm seeing over here is like over 2 hours if I'm reading this right. And when I sped up the one part of the video, which took me forever to figure out how to do it right on this new stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, it says this clip went to 15 minutes, but I don't know if that feels right. I mean, it could be, but I don't know. I'm real confused about what happened here, because I had cut out some chunks of it, and it just felt like it should have been shorter. And he's like, yeah, I think you lengthened the video by accident. And I was like, okay. And I was trying to look up a tutorial to try to figure out what the fuck I did, because apparently he seems to think that, you know, my OBS is recording at 1 frame rate, and the frame rate on the software editing timeline was a different one. And when it asked me if I wanted it to match it, I was like, yeah. And he was like, so I think you may have doubled it with the frame rate thingy. And I'm like, okay. So I'm gonna have to start a new edit folder, a new edit project tonight, and show him what it says, because I looked and I'm recording, I saw what frame rate I'm recording at, but I couldn't figure out where it said what frame rate the project timeline was. And I'm like, well, how do I get them to both be the same? I was real fucking confused. I was like, I don't know, man. And then when I looked at the recording folder, all of the files were in this one format, and I'm like sitting here looking at it, and I'm like, what the hell format is this? I'm like, I didn't tell you to record in this. Did I? Why aren't you recording as this? Like, I thought all my other stuff had recorded as like MP4s, and I'm like so confused, and I'm like, but why are you this? And then I went to, I found, I'm not that tech savvy, I found where you could change how it was recorded into what type of file in OBS. I'm like, here it is. I said, you know, well, we had to re-download OBS, so I went back to all its defaults, because I hadn't told it to do anything differently, and didn't think I needed to. And when I reverted it, or changed it to MP4, it yelled at me, and it's like, are you sure you want to change this? Because if you change it to this, you're not going to be able to recover the data of the recording if you like lose power or something in the middle of the recording before it's been finalized. And I was like, that sounds scary. And I was like, oh, maybe we should leave you alone. And I told the husband, he goes, yeah, leave it as the thing that it was recording as. I'm like, okay, sure. Because of course I get into all this trouble later at night when I don't have my tech support, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I just want to do the thing. Like I said, this new video editing program, well, new to me video editing program, it just seems so much more complicated than what I was using. And I said to him, I said, do you think the other program will work on this version of Windows? Because it was a pretty old version of what I was using, and I think it's from like 2015 or something. And he's like, we were using that on Windows 10, and I got forced into Windows 11 with the new PC. And he's like, I I really don't think it's gonna. He's like, it might, but I don't know. And he's like, and I don't think I have the downloader or the installer for that program anymore. And I was like, right. I don't think we still had the installer on the other hard drive either, so it's just like, well, great. I think there's an editing program that came with Windows. I have not tried it. I don't know if it would do what I want it to do. I mean, I'm kind of figuring out this new one, but it's gonna take some time. Like, I figured out the one thing pretty easy, although I couldn't get it to work right last night, and I'm like, why is the crossfade being weird? Like, I need it to be here, and then I realized, oh, so the length of the crossfade depends on where I grab it off of this effect bar, which I never dealt with before. I just grabbed the transition and dropped it in, and then I could fuss with the length of the transition in the timeline, and this is like completely different. Like, there's a cutting room window, and I'm just like, but why can't I cut it over here? And it wouldn't let me cut it on the other window. And then when I changed the speed of the file or the clip to speed it up for the time-lapse I was working on, well, not really time-lapse, but for the sped up version of what I was doing, it put back in what I had cut back out, and I'm like, I cut you. This part of the clip isn't even in the folder anymore. Why are you suddenly back? And I'm like, okay, I don't understand what's happening. And the only way I could get it to stop was to go in somewhere else. I'm kind of trying to figure it out as I go, which is kind of working, but kind of not really working. It's bizarre, to say the least. I don't even know what time we got started. Okay, so we got started at almost 2. So I guess we're not doing too bad here for the time that we've been going. I'm gonna need to refill some fluff bags. I think when we're done with this project, which means digging through all of my fluff again and refilling everything. Which is a bit of a trial. I still have to take a picture of the fluff wall for you guys. I don't have an easy way to take a picture of it, so I have to get the husband to do it. I mean, I could do it, but then I have to bust out the DSLR, the good camera. Because if I try to take the picture on my Kindle, I don't really have a way to get it to you guys. Very easily, so I don't really have any of the social media apps on my Kindle on purpose. That's usually my settle-in, wind-down device at the end of the night. Lay in bed and read terrible, terrible fan fiction. Sometimes I find a few that I like. And I start to get towards the end and realize, or I get to the last chapter updated, and I'm like, where's the rest of the story? And then I notice that the story was posted like 6 years ago, and I'm like, oh, they're never finishing this. Son of a bitch. So there's always that lovely fan fiction heartache. Hey, Jess. How are you doing? I'm alright. I'm alright as I can be today. Allergies and just tired. But that's nothing new. At least not for this time of year. We got the second monitor up, so yay. It feels weird having it back. When I woke up, there wasn't any mail on the kitchen table, so I was like, oh, I guess my cable didn't come. It was saying it was going to come today. They must have adjusted it, because I'm like a fiend. If I know I have an order out, I am like checking that tracking constantly, like every couple of hours. Did it move yet? Where is it? Where was it scanned at? Has it been scanned again yet? How far out is it going to be? Is it actually going to show up when they say that it's going to? Like, I need to know where my package is. Because sometimes mail gets misdelivered in this town. We keep getting, at least, you know, from my perspective, we keep getting mail for like the same, sometimes the same house number, but completely different streets. Or sometimes we'll just get a completely different piece of mail. And I understand stuff happens, and maybe they're just not as careful with envelopes. But it makes me wonder, you know, have we missed any important documents that never got sent to us, and did that person just like throw them away because they weren't theirs, instead of putting them back in the mail, or, you know, bringing them to the address they were meant for? Or did they put on there, not at this address, return to sender? I mean, you know, not looking carefully and realizing that, oh, this was a completely different address. So, like, I need to know where my shit is. It says delivered, I need to know where it is. But our post office is also a little janky, right? So the way the mail delivery is set up here, sometimes the delivery service will bring it to our house, and then other times the post office will bring it to our house. It depends on who the carrier is. Or the item, I guess, really. Because we've had some stuff say delivered, but we didn't get it yet, and we're like, what the fuck? And then, like, the next day, it shows up and the post office brought it. And I'm like, but it was coming through this. Why did the post office bring it? I guess because they were only contracted to go so far. And they're like, yeah, we'll get it to the city, but it's the post office problem after that point. So it's like, where's my stuff? And, like, we never get mail past, like, 4 o'clock at the absolute latest. We had, at one point we were getting mail, like, around 2 or 3. And then I guess our mail person changed. And then we started getting it at, like, before 10 a.m. or, like, before noon. And I'm like, this is different. And that's been pretty consistent, but then we would start getting it, like, no later than 4, and I'm like, okay. So sometimes I see stuff that will say, delivered by 8 p.m., and I'm like, you're full of shit, we never get stuff delivered that late. Because I was waiting for a pre-order on something, and I'm like, fuck, it's not gonna be here in time. I was so mad, I was so upset, because it was, like, for a game or something. And we had pre-ordered early for like a collector's edition. We were supposed to have it X number of hours in time for the launch of the game, and, you know, we knew we were going to have to install everything, and my install codes were in the box, and I'm like, this is fucking stupid. And it finally showed up. Like, I said to myself, it's not going to show up. I said, I was so mad. I was so upset. And, so I was actually off that night, and that was what I was looking forward to doing. I was like, it says it's delivered by 8 p.m. We don't get mail that late. Like, it hasn't shown up by 5. We're not getting it. And he was like, well, there's nothing I can do about it. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm just mad. And at like 8:30, we heard a car door slam. And we heard something hit our front porch. And then another car door slam. And we're like, what the fuck? So we stepped outside and the box was on the porch. And I'm like, we never get mail this late. So either got delivered to somebody else's house, and they found it and brought it to the right house, or just that was the vehicle that they were using to deliver it in, and they were just being really, really behind. But it's like, I need to know where my stuff is. Because there's 2 different Facebook pages for the town that I live in that are run by citizens that they've set up private groups for. 2 that I know of. And one is called the uncensored version, and the other one, if you even say something slightly critical of something about the town, they like remove your post. The one group, everything has to be rainbows, unicorns, and butterflies 24/7, and the other one's a little more real, and a little more tells it how it is, I guess. And a little less pod person. And I'm like, okay. And on the uncensored page, every day, something's been misdelivered somewhere in this town. And they're like, did somebody get my Walmart grocery delivery? Because I ordered groceries and they're saying they delivered them and they said where and they're not here. And they sent me a picture of where they put it, and that's not my house. So who got my delivery? Who got my groceries? And I can't believe some people would just keep groceries that they didn't order. I mean, I know times are tough, but if times are tough for you, then they are for that person that ordered that as well. And do the right thing. And try to figure out where those groceries were supposed to go, or call the people that dropped them off and be like, hey, this isn't the right address that you dropped these off at. Like, this needs to go. Someone needs to come and get this, because these aren't mine. And I don't know who they belong to. But the grocery fairy certainly didn't just gift me this much stuff that I don't use. And then there will be all kinds of packages. Hey, my package said delivered. It ain't here. And then people are like, yeah, it probably got delivered to the post office. See if it shows up tomorrow. And I'm just like, oh, God. So, it's a mess. Like, it's an absolute mess. I'm like, do the people delivering the mail... I guess some of these people... don't live here, maybe, or aren't that familiar with the way the streets are. I will say it is a bit confusing in some of the areas, because this was a farming community at one time, and the houses aren't that far apart in some areas. But there's still some, like, dirt roads in some sections, and, like, we don't even know what street we're on half the time. And you'll be walking down the street, and there's just, like, a group of, like, 4 or 5 mailboxes together. And it's like, what? And they're like for the houses that are across the street. I'm like, this is really fucking confusing. Why can't they just have their mailbox on their house? Like, what? And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't know, I guess it's faster for the delivery person, maybe? But I've got to get the number stickers to put on our mailbox itself. We had changed out our mailbox a while ago, like a couple of years ago. And we have the little reflective numbers on the post that our mailbox is mounted on. But I don't have the little reflective stickers on the box itself. I don't know if I wrote them in marker, but I know they're definitely on the pole. And we don't have the numbers on the house itself, so we do need to fix that. Let's see how things are going here. I mean, we're not doing too bad. We've made a little bit of progress here in the hour and a little bit that we've been going today. So I don't think I'm too distorted yet. I mean, the top edge is getting a little wobbly, but I still need to get the dowel rods to test my new idea for hanging these so they don't have to be quite so size precise to fit into a frame. I mean, they can still be framed. It's just you're gonna have to get a mat with an opening that's like, that might have to be custom. You might have to go with a little bit smaller opening, but then you're gonna cut off some of the stuff. So I mean, it really depends. So I kind of was thinking about it. I'm like, well, if we do a scroll hanger, I know that doesn't make much sense. What the fuck's a scroll hanger? But you know how you'll see like some wall hangings where there's like a dowel rod or something at the top, and they've got like the hanging string attached to that. Well, I was thinking of doing something like that. And then it doesn't quite matter if we've shrunk down a little bit, as it tends to do. Because, you know, we're tightening all the fibers and pulling them all in together of our base item here. And sometimes it happens. Sometimes it gets a little wonky. Just kind of the nature of the beast for how we're doing it. So then I'm like, well, then it wouldn't matter quite so much. I would love to test to see if a guillotine would cut this when it's done. But I think it might be too thick. So I think I just need to get a good pair of big sharp scissors, so that way my wobbly ass line isn't quite so wobbly. And I can cut stuff a little bit straighter. That's the thought process, the theory. In reality, I don't think I've ever cut a straight line to save my life. Even using a paper cutter, paper trimmer, I'm pretty sure I've never, cut a correct straight line ever. Although I wasn't being that precise with the paper trimmer I had, because I was just trimming tissue paper for our tissue paper art stuff. So it didn't have to be all that precise. Ooh, we could Mod Podge the flamingo. No, maybe we'll just paint it. I really need to use some of this paint before it dries out. That I definitely do. And I would paint that flamingo. I'm gonna call it a wall decoration. It's not really a plaque. It's too big to do on stream though. I was gonna do it on stream. I was like, oh, we can take a break at some point and work on that. And then I'm looking at the size of it, and then I'm looking at the size of my workspace, and I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna fit. So I don't have the money to replace my desk yet. As it is, I'm really nervous about how much work it's going to, how much the work on the car is going to cost. We're getting that done tomorrow, I think. We have a serpentine belt that needs to be replaced because the car, I think, is about to hit 100,000 miles. The car wasn't brand new when we got it, so we didn't put all of those on there. We got the car used from the dealership, but it was lightly used, but it was still used. I think it's a 2013 Toyota Corolla. But we have put quite a shit ton of miles on that car, because we don't live in a city. Well, I mean, we live in a town, but like all of the stuff that we need to go access most of the time is in Fayetteville. We live outside of Fayetteville, and it's like a good, depending on traffic, it can be anywhere between, well, Fayetteville and Farmington, so it's could be anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes to get to where we're going. Sometimes 40 minutes just to get to the place that we need to be at. So, I mean, it adds up. Plus we did 1, 2, 3, 4 road trips to New Jersey, back where I'm from, on this car, and we also drove to Key West in this car. This car's seen some miles, so, and we might be driving back to Florida next year, maybe. I don't know yet. It depends on a couple of things and if we can get the money together. So my mom wants to go see my brother. Her son from her first marriage. We're half siblings. And we're not really all that close. Like, we don't talk anything. There's a bit of an age gap between us, and he's a bit of, you know, just wanting to do his own thing, and that's fine. He can be a bit of a prick when he wants to be anyway. But, we don't really bother with each other, but she's like, I want to go see him, and he's living in Florida. So, he's not really the visity type of person, though. And I know some people are like, what the fuck do you mean by that? You know, there's some family you can go see that you haven't seen in forever, you know, and you can spend a couple days visiting with them, and, you know, you'll have a good time. This sibling's not really, he's kind of similar to me in the respect of, well, okay, we've talked for like an hour, I'm good, why are you still here? Kind of thing. I'm like, you can go now. I don't have anything else to say. I can't do a week with you in my personal space. I really don't have that much to say. Like, we've said everything that we needed to catch up on. It's just like, I'm done now. Have fun. Bye. So he's just not that people-y. I guess. And I don't remember when the last time my mom saw him. Like, physically saw him. Might have been maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and she had said, well, I want to see him again before I pass. And I'm like, oh Lord. So I was like, all right. I was like, well, I mean, and she's like, well, he offered to send me the money for a plane ticket. And she's like, but I won't fly. And I was like, do we need to drive you? I'm like, we can, but we don't have the money to spend on this trip, because it's going to take us a couple days to drive down to Florida. Because she needs to stop every so often and stretch her legs and her back, because she's got, she has degenerative joint disease in her lower back, and, you know, arthritis, and one of those osteo ones that I never get the name right on. Osteoarthritis, maybe that's what it is. I can't remember. Something, you know. And so she needs to get up and move so she's not so stiff. So it would involve, you know, stopping every so often, just, you know, for a few minutes to get out of the car and stretch and stuff. So I think when I was looking on Google Maps, it was like a 17-hour drive to where my brother is at in Florida. Of course, I was looking at this at like 10 o'clock at night, and they're like, this is with no traffic. And I'm like, yeah, sounds about right. I never look at these things when there is traffic happening. And I noticed one of the routes on the Google Maps was giving me, it was like saying, this route is closed. It was like the fastest route there. This route is closed. You need to find an alternative route. There are no alternative routes that we can give you. And I was just like, huh? I'm like, you just closed one of the main roads through here and there's no detour? Oh, okay. Sure. I mean, there was another route that I could click on. I think it was maybe an hour longer, and I'm like, well, that's not that big of a deal. But I was just confused as to why that was closed, because it didn't say why it was closed. It's just like, nope, this is closed. Road is closed. And I'm like, is it like just for overnight construction? Why? So I don't know. I didn't dig too far because I'm like, this is probably going to be reopened again by the time we would be doing this, because we have to do it in the fall when my mother-in-law is back in town to watch my dogs. We've traveled with the dogs twice. Once we took them to New Jersey with us because we didn't have anybody that could watch them. And I wasn't going to traumatize them by boarding them, because I don't think that would go over well for them with their personalities. And so we kind of had to bring them with. But they're not the easiest to travel with, and they do, husband's back, but they do increase the expenditures pretty quickly. Because then you have the pet fees at the hotels, and it wouldn't be such a big deal if they would just like lay down and sleep at the hotel. But Zuzu will suddenly just start howling if he thinks he's alone. Like these loud, mournful wails. And I'm like, buddy, I'm in the other room. What is your deal? And he's like, oh, you're here. Well, I was alone in this room and I didn't like it. And we can't have him suddenly hauling off and doing that in the hotel room. if all of us are out at the same time. And we can't always bring them with us depending on what we're doing, so not every activity is doggo friendly. Alright. We're getting there, we're getting there. I mean, we were like over here when we started, so definitely made some ground today. Now we'll see how close. What the heck did I? Hang on. What did I do here? Did I really? Haha! Okay, my preview of this is really small, so. When I screenshotted this off of my computer, I had screenshotted it off the OBS preview screen after we had finished it, because I was like, oh, let me grab this real quick. And apparently I had another screen source clicked, so that's what that blue line is that's running through that tree. That is on the image, and I didn't realize that was there. I'm gonna have to take a cleaned up screenshot at some point, or I might just leave it alone because, you know, it lives there now. So ignore that blue line that's running through that tree, because I just noticed it. I'm like, why does it look like there's a blue line there? Like, what did I do? Is that you? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, so we're getting there on the sky. And, you know, like I said earlier, putting in the big blocks of color does take some time. I can't really speed that up any faster than I already am. But for those that want to see the entire project from start to finish in one sitting, I do, when we're done the live stream, like when we're done live streaming each tutorial, I have been going back and downloading all of the live streams from that particular project, and then I've been going back and editing them all together and speeding them up to do a speed felt, kind of like a speed paint, except we're needle felting, and putting the entire project into one sitting. So I do that at the end. That goes up on the YouTube channel. So on the playlist, I've got multiple playlists up there. There should be a Nisey Needle Felts playlist. So whenever, and I have all of, well, I think most of the live streams that we've done have been archived over there. Not all, but most. So I send, like, the session that we're watching now will end up on YouTube in like a couple of days. So there'll be the live session of what we're doing right now archived over there, and then you'll see like that block of videos together, and then at the end of the individual live sessions, if I remember to put them in the right place, should be the sped up version of all of those sessions edited down into one video. Because, you know, sometimes we get to talking and sometimes we get to looking at other stuff, and just making sure I don't have any other purple fluff sitting anywhere. So they should be lined up for live stream session speed felt. Live stream session speed felt. I can't remember if I moved the last one that I did into its proper place on the playlist. I'm gonna have to check that when I get done here today. So the YouTube channel is the same name as the Twitch channel, so it's gonna be NiseyBGN over there as well. And you know, and sometimes you'll see some stuff pop up that wasn't live streamed, like me catching up on the Duo Planet Zoo build that the husband and I are working on. And I do have the Distant Hills, the last tutorial that we followed with this needle felting medium. I do have to start working on that. I think I started to, but I think I have to start it over because I put it in the new editing software wrong, I think. So, but I didn't get that far on it. But I was holding off working on that until we got the new PC, so I wasn't in the middle of editing it and having to swap because that wasn't gonna work. It's a good thing I did wait because, you know, as we know, the other PC tragically didn't technically blow up, but it did bite the dust where everything just went black very suddenly, out of nowhere, with no warning. Which is why we're now on this setup. Sorry, I don't know why I bend my arm like that. I do. It just seems to be okay doing that. I don't know. And it's just like, alright, we'll bend that way. So the next thing I need to work on replacing is my desk. My work area is pretty small. So the size of my work area is about the size of the mat. So that's pretty much what we have to work with at the moment. And it disturbed me greatly that painter's tape that's not supposed to do any damage did damage to this desk surface. So I'm like, what? So let me see if, yeah, it's probably gonna be a little messy. So I had put painter's tape down, and when I went to pull it up, it ripped off the it's not really vinyl, I guess like a sticker or something. That the pattern of this, it's not real wood grain. Like, this feels like cardboard under here. I'm like, what? I don't know. This desk isn't that old, but it's old. Well, I mean, it's old enough, but it's not that old that it should have done that. That's why we have a mat to help hide that. I have one that's further up that you can't see, that's like behind where my monitor is, that kind of peeled in the shape of a bird. And I kind of colored it in with some colored pencils. And I was just gonna own the mess that the painter's tape did to this desk surface and just start coloring everything in with like markers or colored pencils. And then I was like, oh, and then we can like seal it. And I was like, yeah, but the sealer might make the rest of it bubble. So I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't do that. Like, I need this surface to function a bit longer. I have a potential replacement bookmarked that should give me a little bit more work area. But I've got to save up to replace that. or to get that replacement. It's not hugely expensive, but it's expensive for us. So I think it's about, oh, how much was it? Like $214, I think, on Amazon before taxes. It should ship for free. Either between the Prime membership that the mother-in-law has that we use to get free shipping, or because of the dollar amount. Either way, it still should be shipping for free, because I think I picked one of the ones that ships from Amazon. They had a similar version available through Walmart, which was a little bit cheaper. I think the one from Walmart was listed under 200, like 190 or something. But I think this desk might have come from Walmart that I'm using now. So I'm like, And I hate buying desks sight unseen. Like, yeah, a photo's one thing, but actually touching it and feeling what the surface is made out of is something else entirely. So, I get a little nervous about it. I had this one desk that was solid, like it was wood. I think it was expensive too, but that sucker was heavy. He was solid. I didn't have to worry about him, and we couldn't bring him with us because we couldn't get out of the basement. Like, that son of a bitch got put together with like little, I don't know what they're called. They're like little mini, not tabs, but they were like little tiny pieces of ridged dowel rod that were like rounded on the ends, like into the shape of like, not a pointy cone, but like a rounded cone. And they had the little ridges in them, and they gave you wood glue to put on these things. Like, we're not talking like those stupid Allen wrench things. No. This fucker was solid. And he was not coming apart. No, that just wasn't happening. It was huge. I had all of this workspace and everything. I loved it. And we could not get it upstairs and out of the basement when we moved. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm like, we got it in here. How did we get it into the basement and then not be able to get it out of the basement? Like, this makes no sense. I don't know if we had taken that basement door off the hinges to get it down there. Maybe we did. But, like, the width of the desk, like, back to front, was, like, almost the exact width of the basement door, what it had to have been. We just could not get the fucking thing out of there. I was so mad. It was, like, one of the things I wanted to bring with me. Nope. The desk said, I'm not moving. Hang on. I'm hot. I need to take this shirt off. I'm having one of these days where I'm hot one minute and I'm cold the next. Like, the husband has a fan that he had used when he was working at the plastics factory. And it looks like one of those, it looks like a mini version of the ones that you would see like at a retail business, that kind of looks like a snail that kind of blows on the floor to dry it when it gets wet. Except instead of pointing at the floor, it like you could point it towards you or in a direction. So I call it his snail fan. And I had that going earlier before we got started. It's kind of noisy though. Even when it's like, we have it in the doorway between our room and like the pass-through room outside of it. And it was still pretty noisy, but I was cold when I walked by it, and I was like, oh, yeah, let's turn this off. And then 5 minutes after I turned it off, I'm like, now I'm hot. I didn't end up putting it back on. Because at that point, I had already sat down again, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting back up right now. I'm not hot enough to bother getting up right now. Kind of thing. But we're not doing too bad here today. I feel bad we didn't get that far last week when we started this guy. But it was not a good idea to be that mentally exhausted and trying to use such a sharp object, so I was envisioning disaster if I kept trying to push forward. Uh-oh. Momo's dreaming. Now he's growling. So it was a little chilly over the weekend, and I had pulled out a pair of my fuzzy pants. Like, fuzzy sleep pants, but I can't sleep in them because I get too hot. So, if I'm outside doing something and it's chilly, I'll put them on over, like, my shorts. So, because I live in shorts in this house. And, we went for our walk, and I had just thrown a pair over my shorts, because I'm like, yeah, it's a little cold to do shorts, and I need some kind of pants, and I'll just do these today. We're not going anywhere where I really need to worry about the print on them, so just going for a walk around the neighborhood. And we came back and I took them off, and we have like an ottoman next to the bed that I put there so that the one doggo can use it to get on and off the bed a little bit easier, and he ignores it 25% of the time unless I point to it and I tell him to get on that first. But he's a little bit stubborn. He's like, no, I'm gonna jump from the floor. I'm like, buddy, you're getting older. I really wish that you would use the ottoman. The ottoman's not as high as the bed. And he's like, nope. And he doesn't even use it to get off the bed half the time either. He just like tumbles to the floor. I'm like, I really wish you wouldn't do that. But so I sat my pants on the little ottoman thing. So I'm like, well, okay, they're right here. I can grab them when I need them because they really weren't dirty. And I wore them over something, so I'm like, I can wear these again without washing them. Because I hate doing laundry. And because it never ends. That's laundry and dishes. Like, there's never an end to it. There's only a temporary reprieve. Like, it's just, sooner, like, finish cleaning the sink and getting out the dishes put in the drying rack that you turn around and like a half an hour later there's dishes in the sink again. Same thing with laundry. Sooner put the last item in the wash and you turn around and it's like, oh, well, I have these now because I changed. So it's like, damn it. Kind of thing. So like within an hour again, there's something in the laundry basket or the hamper. Kind of situation. So I put them on there because I'm like, we can wear these again. That's fine. And I had a pair of like stretch pants that looked like jeans, or just stretchy legging jean things. I'd worn those a couple times and they really weren't quite dirty enough for me to wash them yet. And I think I had like one more use to go on them. I'd only been in them like 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, not very long. And sat those down on the ottoman too. And a couple hours later, like I can't see Momo's dog bed from where I'm at. It's on the other side of bed from where I'm currently sitting, and I've got stuff in the way that blocks my line of sight to him. And I didn't really hear him messing around with anything. So when I got up to go to the bathroom, I happened to walk by the ottoman, and I noticed my pants were missing, and I'm like, where's my pants? Both pairs of pants were missing. Because the one was like a grayish color, and my fuzzy pants were like a bright pink plaid. And I'm like, it's kind of hard to miss that. And I'm just standing there staring at I'm like, where the fuck did my pants go? Did I move them and I don't remember? And then out of the corner of my eye, Momo's dog bed is an old, like 20-pound, like the box held 20 pounds of Timothy hay when we still had the guinea pigs that it came delivered in. He was enamored with this box, so we shoved a pillow in it, and he's like, this is my bed now. And I'm like, you don't want an actual, like, doggy bed? And he's like, nope, he won't lay in them. He wants this. And I'm like, okay. I guess because there's sturdier sides that he can lean into. I don't know. He's just deemed this his bed. All the other beds that we got for him, he would not sleep in. So I'm like, alright, that's fine. You can have the free box, I guess. So out of the corner of my eye, I see a tiny bright flash of pink in this area where there shouldn't be pink. And I'm like, what? What is that? And I bend down and look closer, and it's a tiny spot of fabric from my pants, just barely visible, in the dog bed. And I'm like, what? And then on closer look, I see my other, like, stretchy jean legging pants in the dog bed entirely. And I'm like, really? So he wasn't happy just taking my stretchy jean pants. No. He had to take my fuzzy pants too. He has 2 pillows, a sweatshirt that was my dad's, wrapped around one of the pillows because it's disintegrating. And then one of my other blankets that he was enamored with that he kept stealing off the bed and dragging it into his dog bed. And I'm like, excuse me. You stole my pants. And he just kind of looked at me like, what are you gonna do about it? I'm like, buddy, you've got to stop stealing my clothes. Those aren't there for you. And I don't even know how he does it. I think he just, like, digs them into his dog bed with his front feet. I don't think he's grabbing them with his mouth. I think he's, like, using his feet to pull them into his dog bed. He's like a fucking magpie. The dog's a klepto. I don't really understand it. He kind of always has been to a degree. Like when we were both working overnight, we would put them in their kennel to keep them out of trouble when they were both still small enough to fit in the size kennel that we had together. And when we'd have to do laundry, or when we decided, you know, the dog blankets were smelly, so we needed to wash them. It had been a while since we had last washed them. I'd be pulling their blankets out of their kennel, and I'm finding, like, wrappers from McDonald's, wrappers from butter, like sticks of butter in the dog kennel, and I'm so confused because I'm like, huh? Where did you get this? Like, we didn't have a trash can in our room, and we would have never put a wrapper for butter in the trash can in our room if we had one at the time. And I'm just like, what? And Russell's like, son of a bitch. Momo's a ninja and a klepto ninja magpie dog. We finally figured out that if we were distracted with something, whether we were doing a game, we were working on something, whether we stepped out and didn't put them in their kennel, or we were asleep, he was sneaking out of our room because we didn't have a solid door to shut to our room. We had like a curtain thingy because for some reason the room didn't have a door to it. And we were gonna put like a barn door up that would roll, like one of those rolling doors, and we just never got around to it. He was sneaking out and going into the kitchen and standing up on his back legs and rummaging through the trash to find a treasure. And then he was bringing that treasure back to his doggy den to save for later. And he would hide it under the blankets or in between the blankets so we didn't see it. Because he knew if we saw it, we were going to take it. We tried barricading the kitchen because the kitchen didn't have a door. It was just an open doorway. And it was a wide open doorway. So it would have been awkward to even attempt to find a door that would fit there. It just wasn't a doorway that you could really put a door in without a bunch of trouble. So we had gotten a couple pet gates, and we had them at like full extension, and then we had a like the, you know how the cat litter comes in like the 40 pound tubs, 25-pound tubs, like the big yellow tidy cat containers of cat litter, because we go through a lot of cat litter. We had one of those that we had to kind of shove in the doorway, because the doorway was wide, to the kitchen, and like use that container as the wall for the pet gate to put pressure against. But we had to have it at a certain height so that the cats could still get in and out of the kitchen, because they had a litter box in there and their food was in there and stuff. And we tried that, and it seemed to work for a little while. And then we found stuff in his dog bed again and realized he was jumping over the kitty litter bucket because it was short enough. And like the kitty litter bucket, like the top of it came up to like his chest. And I was like, okay, Mr. Smart Guy. So then when we got the guinea pigs, we had a playpen for them. Tall. It was really for outside, but we used it for inside sometimes when we gave them outside of cage time for a little bit. But that didn't work too well because then all of the cats were just like hovering. And the one cat did jump the playpen fence and got in there with them. I had been sitting in the playpen with them. So I managed to stop him before he did anything, because he also tried to grab one of the guinea pigs when we had them on the bed and tried to run away with it. We stopped him before he could really do anything. So they couldn't really get much floor time outside of the cage with at least that particular cat. They had to be like, we'd be on guard at all times with them. And so when we stopped doing floor time, because it was getting a little too dangerous, we kept the playpen, and then we were pulling the playpen, because it wasn't a solid playpen, it was just like this, it was like a freestanding wire that you could like form into a shape, and then you could like hook, there was like little hooks on the one end that would hook into its other end, and then when you hooked them together, then it like became like a stable fence. Otherwise it would just fold up to put away. It would like fold flat-ish. So we stuck that in the kitchen doorway, like next to our stove, because there was a space there, and we would just like unfold it a little bit when we went to bed, just to cover across the doorway. And we hung these bells that we had picked up from somewhere on the end of the gate, like on the one end of this fence, because we're like, okay, well, if they touch the fence to try to get by it, we'll hear them. Because we noticed that when we had the fence up without the bells on it, both of them, Zuzu was too short to jump the kitty litter buckets. He wasn't brave enough, basically. But Momo was taller. And now they were figuring out that they could move this wire fence gate thing with their noses and do so very quietly and get into the kitchen. Like, we'd be sitting here, and all of a sudden I'm like, where are the dogs? And then they both come running in as soon as I said that. I'm like, where the fuck? And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, you crazy lady, we were here the whole time. And I'm like, you most certainly weren't. And so we noticed when we put the bells on the gate, we would hear the gate move and go out there and see Momo tapping it with his nose, trying to nudge it open. I'm like, you brat, no. You know you're not supposed to be doing that. But then we had to take the bells off the gate and put them on the fridge because my dad was raiding the kitchen and breaking his restricted intake diet at one point. And we're like, no, no, no. Like, you can't just be eating whatever the fuck you want with what's going on. Because it was like all the things that he wasn't supposed to be having. But then we switched to how we were storing our recycling in the house. And we got a big ass Tupperware container. I don't know if it's like a 10-gallon tote or something. It's big. And we managed to put that in front of our trash can in the kitchen so that Momo can't get to the trash can. And that seemed to finally do the trick. I mean, he always has dog food down. It's not like he was starving. He just didn't want to eat it. He wanted people food instead. And he has an obsession with butter and oil. Like, we had this huge jug of oil that we had gotten from Sam's. Because we're like, oh, well, we won't have to get oil for a while. And, you know, sometimes when you use a bottle of oil, I think it was like a gallon jug of oil or something, you know, sometimes you'll have a little drippy drip on the edge that'll run down the side of the bottle if you don't notice it in time and wipe it off. And we would sit it, like at the base of our pantry on the floor. And we'd look over and there's Momo standing there licking the outside of the oil container. I'm like, buddy, stop. What are you doing? Like, don't do that. And he'd have this look on his face of like, what? Like, no, we don't lick the oil container. Please don't. And they turn on the charm when my mom is eating. I'm like, do not give them any of what you are having. It is not on the doggy approved food list because of what we put in that. They will be getting something else in a little bit because she would usually eat before me. I'd give her her stuff. And then I would work on getting the dogs sorted and me sorted. And I'm just like, don't share that, because she's like, but they're sitting here staring at me. I'm like, yeah, but they can't have that. She's like, well, do you have anything they can have? So then I realized that they were getting 2 rounds of dinner. They were getting whatever she was giving them. And then I was like, if we had rice with dinner, I was taking a couple spoonfuls of that and mixing it in with their dog food. And, you know, if I had anything else left over that they could have, I would mix that in as a treat. And come to find out, they're eating what I was giving them mixed in with their dog food to try to get them to eat some of their dry dog food willingly. And then, you know, they're snacking down with her. I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, no. I was like, you guys already had your dinner. Like, I fed them early the one night. I fed them before I ate. Or Russell gave them their food just as I was finishing sorting mine. And they inhaled it. And I was just like 1 forkful into my dinner, and I feel a nudge on my knee, and I look down and there's Momo. She's like, hi. I'm like, yeah, hi, I love you. You already got your dinner. You just ate it, unless your brother ate it out from underneath of you. But I don't think he did, because you guys ate with Grammy. And I don't think she would have let Zuzu eat your dinner. But Momo won't eat rice unless there's butter on it. I've tried. Like Zuzu, like when Zuzu was sick with his stomach issues. Oh gosh, was that last summer? Or was it the summer before? I don't know. It might have been around the same time that Momo was having his back issues. I don't remember now. And, he, like, wouldn't eat, and he was getting sick, and they're like, well, try some rice, some plain rice, and some boiled chicken. And we're like, okay. And he ate it, and I didn't put anything on the rice. I'm like, okay, good. And, we tried to do that with Momo, and Momo's like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, it's rice, buddy. And he, like, smelled it, took 1 bite of it, dropped it on the floor, and walked away. And I just kind of looked at him like, really? Your brother ate it. He would not eat it. I put some butter in it, and he came back and smelled it and ate it. I was like, right. Because of course. Momo's not really a doggo. He's a human in a doggo form, apparently. And he will only eat if food is presented in a specific way. They never used to be this picky about what they eat either, because we wouldn't share with them until we were done eating. So we didn't have them, like, begging from us while we were eating. And then my dad moved in. And my dad's just sitting there eating, same time, giving them stuff. And I'm like, please don't. Because now they're gonna be, like, crawling into our laps while we're eating. They'll get something just when we're done. And, well, my dad didn't listen to that rule at all. And then my mom didn't listen to that rule at all. And I'm like, yeah, and this is why your St. Bernard stole your sandwich off the table. You had it too close to the edge. The St. Bernard was tall enough that his head could easily rest on the edge of the kitchen table. Disloyal corn. We don't post links in my chat. Number 1, without permission. Number 2, we also don't buy followers, views, or chat bots. That is not cool. I don't believe in any of that. So we're gonna have to we're gonna have to ban you.
Oh, you just beat me to it.
Can you do the report on that for me?
Report.
Yeah.
Not sure how to do
okay, so click the name.
I don't have the name. For some reason, it cleared my chat log after I switched to helping mode.
Oh.
Moderator mode. It cleared my chat as a result.
Okay. I'll have to go back and get it then. But normally you'll click the name and a little box will pop up.
Oh, yeah, I figured.
And then there's 3 dots. Click the 3 dots and it'll say block or report. And then click report. I'll have to do it when we're done. If they haven't already been actioned by Twitch. Oh, see, you know, I thought I was in the middle. I saw the message pop up and forgot we were in the middle of stabbing something. But yeah, he's my little ninja klepto magpie of a dog. Alrighty. So I don't know if we're doing an afternoon stream tomorrow. I don't have one scheduled. I don't know what the husband's doing tomorrow, because he had to cancel D&D. Because the car is getting worked on tomorrow, and we didn't realize, oh hey, Tuesday. And it's gonna be a while. Plus I think it's like right around their start time anyhow for when they were doing stuff. But we really need to at least start getting some of that work done. And they don't apparently do rentals anymore. They let you borrow a vehicle if the work's gonna take a while. They do a shuttle service, and I'm like, okay, yeah, they'll bring you home, but will they come back and get you? Because how else are we gonna get back to the dealership to get the car? Because that's a problem. Like, we have his mom's car, but the one tire is fucked on it. We filled it with air once and it's almost flat again, and it hasn't been driven since putting the air in it, so she's got a substantial leak somewhere in that tire. And I don't know if it's patchable. Well, we don't have the money to get it patched. So, like, we can't even really go out and start it that much now because we can't drive it to go get more gas. We need to replace 2 more tires on our car. So we might take one of those, see if they'll let us keep one to put on her car temporarily. At least until she gets back. And she can fucking figure it out herself. So this side's gonna have another tree on it. I can't believe I didn't notice that big ass line through that when I took that screenshot. So we're gonna have this tree, this one in the background in the blue box, is gonna be like up in here. So I don't have to have this edge completely perfect. My messy ass handwriting for what colors are gonna go where. I was not trying to write terribly neatly there. I was in a hurry when I was writing that. So, hey, we've reached the other side. At least in one part. Excuse me. Ugh. That allergy medicine probably should have worn off already, but at the same time, I didn't really take a full dose either. I barely took a fraction of a dose. I did not want to fall asleep. In the middle of doing this, after being so tired last time. Let's see, checking our time here. So I don't necessarily have a hard stop time today, but I think we will be stopping around 4:30. So like in about another 20 minutes. Just so I can get up, stretch out my neck. Go get some more medicine and get dinner sorted because I'm getting hungry. Got used to eating earlier than I normally do. So now I am hungry. Okay. Got our ball of what could be cotton candy, except it's not sticky and it's not edible. Don't eat this. Our fluffy yarn fiber. Alright. So after we get this put in, right? Then we'll be working on those background trees that he's got happening up there. Now, he doesn't have them yet in the tutorial. We haven't gotten that far advanced in the tutorial just yet. But in the image, you can see like the oranges, and in the sketch in the upper left, you can see the oranges and the reds and the yellows and stuff. That's gonna all get layered in here, kind of in a semicircle shape. Kind of. like the way he laid it in, he kind of starts it maybe about maybe here-ish on the one side and maybe about here-ish on the other side, and then it's just kind of like wavily laid in. So then he has some spaces separated between them here and there, and it kind of gives it like a cloudy effect in between, or like foggy effect in between them. But then he's got like big ash trees here, big ash trees there, and then he's got the really big ash trees, and then there's like hardly any of that sky left visible. And I felt so bad because I'm like, but we just spent all this time putting this in and now we're not even gonna see it. The sky could have been like, I don't know, polka dot plaid or some shit, and it wouldn't have mattered because we wouldn't have seen it. So I'm actually going to be leaving a little more of the sky visible than he does. Just because, I mean, we went to all this trouble to put this in. I don't want it to be for nothing. You know? So that just doesn't seem right. Oh, and I've noticed a couple more follows on the YouTube channel. If that was you guys, thank you so much. I do appreciate it. Or subscribers, I should say. You can, subscribing is like following here on Twitch. Subscribing on YouTube is free. It's not the same as subscribing on Twitch. Subscribing on Twitch costs money. So the follow on Twitch, which is free, is the same as the subscribe on YouTube, which is free over there. But thank you. We've gained a couple more followers. I'm nowhere near the follower numbers I need to even attempt to monetize that channel now. But we're a couple more closer. I've still got a long ways to go on that. And I still have a ways to go on the watch time. But I've noticed that's come up really a lot in the past, like, week or two. So thank you guys for that too, if that was you. That's really helpful. Because the YouTube channel is not monetized. Not yet. I don't care what Social Blade tries to tell you guys for people that might be looking. Social Blade's not true. Social Blade is not accurate. It's an estimate because when you look on my Social Blade, it says I'm making a pitiful amount of money on YouTube and the channel's not even monetized. So I'm like, what are you talking about? Give me my 10 cents that I earned from AdSense, damn it. But it's not really accurate. So take whatever information that you might see on there with a healthy dose of skepticism, because it's not entirely true. It's not very accurate. It's definitely an estimation. And my YouTube channel isn't monetized. So, not yet, at least. I don't know if it ever will be. I know there's some stuff on that channel I can't monetize. Because of the content in it. But, like my highest rated video, I'd never be able to monetize unless the song that's in there goes public domain, and I highly doubt it ever will in my lifetime. Which is sad, but you know, it's the way it goes. I never expected that video to get that many views on it either. And it's still getting consistent views, which surprises the shit out of me. But I'm like, okay. That video's like 10 years old, 10 plus years old. Might be 11. And it was just so bad. Like, at the time, it was edited pretty well, but compared to now, I'm just look at it and I'm like, oh, the video quality on this sucks ass. I will not be remaking it though. That's not happening. That video took me almost a year working on it around everything else I was doing. I will not be redoing that one. Sorry. It took me like 8 or 9 months to edit. Because I wasn't just working on that. I was doing other stuff and working and all the other things. So I really only had like 2 days a week that I was mentally prepared to work on it. And I didn't work on it the entire 2 days of the week that I had because I had other stuff going on. So it was boiled down to like maybe a few hours a week, if that. I was never happier when I finished that thing and I'm like, I'm done. And then I started to try to do another one and I was like, no, fuck this shit, I'm not. Or Sony Vegas updated and changed and I got mad at it because everything was different and I couldn't figure out how to do the things that I was doing in the previous version and I was like, nope, I'm done. Excuse me. At that point, it just wasn't worth the aggravation. At least I hadn't I hadn't recorded all of the footage yet that I was going to use for it. I only had a little bit of it. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. Doing machinimas back in the day, man. That was a pain in the ass. And then Model Viewer was down for forever. Because, you know, some of the stuff you kind of had to record in that and then like green screen into backgrounds that you recorded from in the game separately, and it was a lot of moving parts. No thanks for what I was doing. I don't want to do that again. That's okay. I had enough of that. It's more than enough editing, just trying to get the speed felts done. Thanks. And that's not even with any fancy effects and stuff. That's just straightforward. Let's just get her done. So I do owe you guys a video. We might not do anything tomorrow. We might do it on Wednesday. Because I kind of owe you guys a Planet Zoo recording. I'd like to get that up before the next one, but that might not be possible because the husband started working on the next section of our duo zoo. Because he was kind of done his bug area, I think, or he didn't feel like making it any prettier, maybe, I don't know, or he didn't want to work on his main street or something. He wanted to work on something else for a little bit, so I need to get started on my new area for what he rolled. And he rolled grasslands, which we already did in the other one, but that's okay. We'll get to work on that next. I want to at least get some of the editing done on that other one, if possible. Don't know if it will be. so I've got a little bit of a thin spot right there. I mean, it's probably not that big of a deal because we're gonna have those trees coming in and sitting on top. But at the same time, I want to make sure it's not a big deal. And we'll just do a little fill in there. Because as you can see, me filling in that kind of opened up this gap a little bit more. I mean, you can kind of see in some spots where some of the layers came in together. We're gonna have some trees laying in there, so that should be alright. Okay. So we almost got done the sky base color. Almost. It's funny because the camera's picking up some of the gray from underneath a lot more vibrantly than it is to my eyes. I guess it's the way the light's hitting it. Like, there's a faint section in there, but it looks a lot more pronounced. Like, I can see that's a little bit thin over here, but like I said, we're gonna have trees there, we're gonna have trees coming in here. So I'm pretty sure we're gonna be covering up the majority of any weird thinness, but this also gives a little bit of different variation of lightness and darkness to the sky, at least in the camera. Doesn't really look like that in person. It's a little bit more exaggerated with the cami. But I think we're doing pretty good so far. We definitely got a bit of progress here. But that didn't really look like that helped much. Alright. Sometimes you can slide the fiber around just a little bit if you change the angle that you are stabbing it at. Sometimes. Not all the time. Since I don't know if that spot's going to be an issue later. Let's just try to fill that. Now that looks better. Okay. Alright, so I think we're going to stop there for today. And next week, well, not next week, Sunday, it feels like it should be next week, but Sunday we'll pick up, of course, migraine permitting, because those can be an issue at times. But I try to let you guys know on Twitter if I had to cancel suddenly. So Sunday we will come back in and we'll finish this little corner here. I would do it today, but I really need to go eat. So we'll finish that up then, and then we'll start our tree area. Let me see if I can show you. So see our oranges and reds and yellows and stuff in that background there. We'll start to put those in. All in there and try to leave some space in between everybody for our different layers of trees. I might have to work on it upside down a little bit in that section. We'll see how that goes. But this is where we're leaving off for today. Let me just go see if there's anybody for us to go and visit here. Let me check one other spot, because not everybody that we could potentially visit is on the one screen. Let's see. No, I think we'll just call it there for today. I don't really see anybody else that I feel like we should go visit for today. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. If I come back unannounced on Tuesday or Wednesday, there will be a tweet, so make sure you're following there, or make sure you have your notifications turned on here. Either way should let you know when I'm live. If I don't end up doing an extra stream this week, then I will see you guys on Thursday for Coral Island. So have a good week, take care of yourselves, and until next time, have a good one.